Of all the phenomena humans have tried to comprehend, consciousness remains an unfathomable enigma. Despite advances in neuroscience and psychology, the nature of subjective experience eludes scientific explanation. In this video, we'll explore why cracking the mystery of consciousness through psychology proves so profoundly difficult. Defining consciousness. Consciousness remains notoriously hard to define or reduce to any single essence. Philosophers have pondered the nature of consciousness for millennia. Contemporary thinkers describe it as possessing key attributes like a continuous and unitary sense of selfhood and agency. Qualia, the subjective qualities associated with experience like the redness of red or pain of pain. Intentionality, the aboutness of mental states directed at objects or concepts. Access to our own internal mental and emotional states. Yet these descriptors do not seem to fully capture it. Consciousness is fundamentally private and subjective, only knowable through direct experience. And experiences vary hugely, spanning sensory perceptions, thoughts, emotions, dreams, and altered states. Some argue consciousness has no single coherent definition and cannot be objectively studied. Others believe a unitary theory is possible but requires radically new concepts transcending neuroscience or psychology's prevailing materialist lens. Proposed essences of consciousness range from information integration across brain modules to quantum processes to an intrinsic property of nature. Eastern perspectives see consciousness as primary, matter as derivative. The myriad interpretations testify to the depth of consciousness's mystery. For now, science cannot definitively state what consciousness truly is, only describe behavioral and neural correlates. But the subjectivity of inner awareness seems resistant to empirical analysis. Understanding consciousness may require articulating entirely new laws as fundamental as the physics governing matter and energy. Until then, psychology faces profound challenges in decrypting the essence of conscious experience. Exactly what is this intangible entity we call consciousness? Philosophers since ancient times have struggled to define it. Contemporary thinkers describe it as a continuous and unified sense of self, agency, qualia, or feelings, and access to our internal states. But distilling consciousness to any single essence remains elusive. We know it through the fact we experience, think, and feel. But observing it scientifically has confounded psychology. The knowledge gap. A fundamental issue is the distinction between studying consciousness objectively versus subjectively. Scientists can correlate neural activity to conscious states. But no measurements penetrate the subjective feelings themselves. Psychology cannot objectify the ineffable what it feels like of emotions, sensations, or thoughts. This unbridgeable gap between subjective experience and scientific data represents a core challenge. The binding problem. Then there is the binding problem. How unified consciousness arises from distributed neural processes. Brain activity appears modular and region-specific. But we experience seamlessly integrated awareness. How the brain binds sensory inputs to generate inner unity is unknown. This binding is a key signature of consciousness missing from even the most advanced AI systems. The hard problem. The question of how the brain generates subjective conscious experience represents arguably the most intractable puzzle facing neuroscience and psychology. Philosopher David Chalmers coined this the hard problem of consciousness. All other questions about cognition and behavior comprise the easy problems potentially explainable through computational brain function. But subjective experience itself seems fundamentally resistant to scientific elucidation. No amount of research on neural correlates of consciousness ever fully bridges the explanatory gap between measurable brain states and the ineffable feelings produced. Even a complete map of neural activity could never reveal why particular configurations feel like anything at all to the self within. Some argue subjective phenomena involve basic properties of nature beyond physical description. If so, this contradicts physicalism, the doctrine that everything derives from physical matter and forces. Chalmers argues subjective experience constitutes an additional fundamental property of nature as irreducible as mass or gravity. Others posit universal consciousness as an intrinsic field from which individual awareness derives. These positions remain highly controversial. But the persistence of the hard problem suggests current psychological frameworks harbor inherent limitations. Some entirely new conception of consciousness may be needed to solve this deepest of mysteries. For now, the gap between third-person data on the brain and the first-person feeling of being conscious remains theoretically unbridgeable. Philosopher David Chalmers coined the hard problem of consciousness, how physical processes in the brain give rise to immaterial mind and subjective experience. No brain scan reveals why neural states feel like anything at all to the self within. Some argue subjective phenomena must be fundamental properties of nature, not byproducts of material processes. This contradicts physicalism, presenting issues for psychology. Alternate theories of mind. Some propose radically different conceptions of consciousness may be needed. The Orcher model views consciousness as patterns embedded in quantum processes spanning brain cells. Others envision universal consciousness or a collective mind. Eastern philosophy sees consciousness transcending individuals. These frameworks diverge sharply from psychology's prevailing materialist lens. Conclusion. In summary, unraveling the ultimate nature of consciousness continues to profoundly challenge psychology. Understanding subjective experience within an objective framework harbors intrinsic limitations. The gaps between mind states and physical brain activity remain theoretically unbridgeable. For this science of the mind, consciousness itself may long stay the most inscrutable mystery of all. Yet the quest must continue to illuminate this most astonishing of phenomena.